Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Strength Game Podcast. I'm your host, Nick O'Brien, and this is episode number 140. The Strength Game is a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing all things physical culture with the coaches, athletes, iron enthusiasts, and experts deeply embedded in the strength game on both sides of the profession, both as coaches and as competitive athletes. I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the show, has liked, shared, commented, gave us suggestions for future guests as well. All your support allows us to continue to bring on expert guests and highlight more individuals in the strength game, just like our guest today. Also want to take this time to thank our sponsors. Samson Equipment has been providing uncompromising quality for over 40 years. Samson products are long-lasting and made of the highest quality equipment on the market. Each project is built from the ground up with the ability to customize every need. The team at Samson focuses on developing the highest quality relationships with their customers, in addition to providing them unparalleled quality in every piece of equipment bearing the Samson name. Learn more about Samson's professional weight room solutions and the Samson standard at samsonequipment.com. Also want to thank our sponsor, Cerberus Strength. Trusted since 2012, Cerberus is making the best strongman, powerlifting, and strength sports equipment and accessories, ensuring the ultimate competitive edge. Every one of their products is tried, tested, and proven by top-level athletes worldwide. So whether it's competing on the big stage at World's Strongest Man or training at home in the gym, Cerberus strength equipment is reliable, durable, and of course, strong enough to handle all your training goals and needs. If you're in the market for the highest quality strength conditioning gear, strongman equipment, be sure to check out cerberusstrength.com and use promo code strength_game to save on your next order. Also want to thank our sponsor, Sport Kilt. Sport Kilt products are made for people who like to be active and make a statement while they train, compete, play, and adventure. Their kilts are designed for comfort, freedom, and style, made for all the brave ways you move. Check out the No Pants All Glory selection of kilts and shop the best collection of high-quality, American-made sport kilts and accessories at sportkilt.com and use promo code TSG to receive an extra 10% off your next order. And in this week's episode, I am joined by Anthony Fuhrman. Anthony is a strength coach, athletic trainer, and co-founder of Strengthlete Collective. The Strengthlete Collective is an online community and training app that gives members access to strength sports-based fitness programs created by world-class athletes and coaches. In addition to working with strength sport athletes, strongman competitors, and team sport athletes alike from high school level to pro level, Fuhrman is also a former infantry soldier. Enlisting in the U.S. Army in 2006, Fuhrman retired in 2022 as a Platoon Sergeant. At the tail end of his service in 2021, he earned his master's degree in sports administration, and in spring 2025, earned his second master's degree in athletic training to complement his bachelor's degree in sports and health science. In addition to his training programs on Strengthlete Collective and being featured on many strength sport and coaching podcasts, he is a huge ambassador for the strongman community. He currently serves as a committee member on the NSCA Strongman SIG, as well as owner, TV producer, and commentator of Clash of the Coast, hosted on ESPN from 2021 to 2023. Fuhrman is an extremely accomplished athlete, competing in multiple strength sports over his career, while predominantly competing nationally and internationally in the 105 kilo weight class as a professional strongman. He is a two-time middleweight World's Strongest Man, earning back-to-back titles in 2018 and 2019. Fuhrman also appeared as a competitor on season 1 of NBC's Titan Games. He continues to train and remains very active both in and out of the weight room, in addition to his athletic training rehab career. Like I said, I'm excited to have him on the show today. So with all that said, let's get in the game with Coach Anthony Fuhrman. What's going on, everybody? Today we got a big time coach on the show, new athletic trainer, strength coach, co-founder of Strength at Strengthlete Collective, strongman strength coach, U.S. Army former infantryman. I mean, just the list goes on and on. We got Anthony Fuhrman on the show. How's it going today, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, Nick. I appreciate it, dude. It's been a minute since I've done a podcast, so it's nice. Nice to get back on the screen.
There we go. Yeah, well, I'm glad to get you on. Like I said, also part of NSCA Strongman SIG. So I got to get everybody that's on the council together at some point in time because those are some of the best group of coaches and smart minds and obviously strongmen I like on the show. So I'm excited to add you to that list. So hey man, without any further ado, let's kind of backtrack a little bit into really what got you going in the strength game. Obviously, we said strongman was a big part of it, but what kind of sports and kind of training did you do before you really got involved in like professional strongman after that?
Man, I've actually, I've done a lot of reflecting. As you get older, you reflect on your life a little more and you kind of where you're going and where you came from. And it started, man, it started when I was a kid watching WWF. Yeah, that's honestly where I pointed all to that, man, watching SummerSlam '93, Taker versus Taker, Owen Hart, Bret Hart. That was like my first live pay-per-view. And then you start watching the Macho Mans and the Ultimate Warriors, and oh, I want to be like that. And then, I was 5, 6 years old, right? So I didn't know how to get there. But as you get older, you're like, oh, it's lifting weights. Oh, it's this, it's that. And then the proliferation of muscle magazines, such as Muscular Development with Ronnie Coleman on the cover and all that stuff. And it was like a real deep-rooted childhood thing even before I started playing sports, really. It's like a psyche, the psychological aspect.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting how that stuff kind of like snowballs. And I mean, as a kid, as a young like athlete, like getting started, you're really kind of impressionable
Yeah.
and you really don't know what you're kind of getting yourself into. But that's awesome that it just kind of started to spiral a little bit from there. And obviously took you to sports and took you to like kind of more physical training, strength training, all those things.
Yeah.
What kind of really got like what was the first initiative that really got you sparked into strongman? And I know there's always like a person, there's a place or time where that's just like, damn, I didn't even know this existed. Like, where was this all along? If I got started earlier, this would have been the thing. But like, what was the inception point for that?
So it's twofold. It's one of them is my grandpa's living room watching ESPN in the summer and seeing the reruns of Magnus versus Magnuson, like everyone else, watching those guys. And I just loved watching it. At that time, I didn't want to do it, but it was something that entertained me. It was just these big giant dudes throwing kegs around and pulling trucks, right? Fast forward 2013, 2014, I was at Fort Carson, Colorado. I was coming off my first knee scope. I tore my meniscus and opted to just shave it off a little bit so I can get back to work, and all that. But I found I couldn't really run or ruck as robustly as I wanted to prior to the knee surgery. So I started training heavier. I had the deployment list before that where you deploy and you lift and you come back and it sticks with you a little bit until you go off in your life. And my buddy introduced me to Mark Taysom, who is he was a lightweight OG and then NSCA. He helped write the strongman, part of the NSCA stuff. He was a big part of that. He was actually helping to initiate the H2F program at Fort Carson, Colorado, back in 2014, and he saw me deadlifting, and it was in his Garcia gym at Fort Carson, and he was like, "Hey, see that stone there? You could probably lift that." And I was like, oh, "Who, me?" I was like, "There's no way, man. Like that's for Magnus for Magnuson." And he was like, "I can do it. You can do it." And he took me over there, and first time he coached me into loading a 300-pound stone with no idea what I was doing. And he was like, "You got something." And I was like, "Do I?" And all right, I'll come more often to this gym and let you kind of guide me. And then him and Chase, who was his assistant strength coach at the time, they just kind of guided me like loosely. They weren't over rigid. They just kind of were like, here, try this, do that. Oh, look at this competition you could do. Oh, and it started snowballing. And I found out I was decent at it. And like most things with most people, when you're good at it and you know you're good at it, you're more inclined to do it, right?
Oh yeah. I mean they just kind of dangled that carrot a little bit in front of you just to see because everybody can go in and find one event maybe that like sticks to them or it
Yeah.
maybe seems attractive, but sometimes pushing people too soon and you're like, whoa, that's too much. I don't want to do that. And I mean, building your confidence and going through like an event at a time and kind of coaching you up and seeing like, all right, are you gonna be enticed enough to like take the initiative to come forward and be like, hey, I want to keep going. I want well, what's more that I can do? And I think that's what it is. And that's kind of cool. That's one of the really cool things about strongman is the variety of the competitions and the events and like the things, the implements that you can use, what makes it really enticing because there's endless possibilities that you can have with it too. Like there's the staples, but outside of it and having the odd objects and all that stuff, it's just fun too because it correlates to like obviously like tactical population in the army and
Yeah.
everything too because it's a lot of the weird movements and like odd lifting and loading and drags and carries and stuff that you end up going to do in an austere environment as well.
Yeah, it's it was things like, and he didn't rush it. It was like, oh, by the way, these are farmer handles. Here's what you do with these. And like the first time you realize you can walk with 300 pounds of hand, you're like, holy crap, I never thought I could do that. You flip a 900-pound tire, holy crap, I never thought I could do that. Things like that. And it was building blocks, a little bit better and better. Oh, I just pressed 170 pounds with one arm. I could even bench that when I was in high school. That kind of thing. So he definitely took a good approach to that. And then, it snowballed. I took it to my platoon. I was platoon sergeant, infantry platoon sergeant at the time, mortar at the HAC company. And we started doing all types of different training, to get ready because as a mortarman, you carry weird stuff. You run with weird stuff. And back then I didn't realize it. Now with my education and everything, now I can put it together, but it was training those awkward positions and those protecting your joints and your back and all that stuff in those awkward positions we often find ourselves in as infantry soldiers.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool to hear that like you started making those correlations as you were going. Like obviously you're going in there to train and kind of looking for a different type of training stimulus, not being able to run or ruck to the same manner you were before that knee scope.
Yeah.
And then you started to like kind of come to those own conclusions yourself and then be able to carry that stuff back to your platoon and be able to kind of work that into the program. That's one thing that's always good. And like you always see like a platoon, like whatever the PSG is really good at, it's like you know that platoon is gonna do the exact same thing. So like you're looking down and like, all right, first platoon, all right, well, their PSG is a triathlon runner, so they're all skinny. The next
Yeah.
one is all power lifters, so like, damn, well, I don't think they're gonna pass the run. You just go down the
At,
list.
at one point, me and four of my soldiers competed at a local competition.
There you go.
It was crazy. Like they took to it, they loved it. It was actually kind of nutty how fast. And again, I was in love with it. I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and so like that love obviously kept through with how I explained things. Even again, like I didn't fully understand it. I just knew that it worked. At that point, I had Army PT. I had a little. I think I took an ISSA personal cert, so I had a little bit of baseline knowledge, but not the in-depth understanding. Um, but it was one of the things where like, well, I saw it work in practice. I saw my soldiers get stronger. I got a couple guys off the Army composition body fat program, and it was like, oh, we're not even running 9 miles at a time. We're doing sprints and loaded carries.
Whoa, look how crazy that is. You don't have to just throw mileage on it every time.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Well,
you
because that's what
never,
wrecked my knee. I it was running. I was 101st Airborne for my first 6 years, and running 40 miles a week at 220 pounds was always going to set me up for failure.
yeah, I, whatever.
That's old
It's,
school. That's like 2006 era Army, though.
yeah, it's luckily it's shifting. And I think there's such a precedence on it, not just like as we talk about it today, but the shift has been going for years. And it's not just the Army, but like all the branches are starting to shift a little bit more and they see the importance of it too. And I mean, it's just like like a battleship. Like it's going to take forever to make that full turn. So it's slowly but surely you just have to keep kind of pulling in the same direction and then inevitably like you're going to get all a big army on board with it and you're starting to see that shift away from that kind of like heavy long volume running and just strictly calisthenics to realize like all right well if I'm running without my gear for 5 miles, like something's probably wrong at that point in
That
time.
was
So,
I, I came to that conclusion on my own. I remember many first sergeants I got into talks with, like, you guys don't run enough. I was like, what are we running from, first sergeant? I'm sprinting to the combat. I'm not running from it. Like that kind of, kind of tongue in cheek, but like it stuck. I was like, hey man, like we'll run to pass the PT test, but I don't plan on running no 5 miles in Afghanistan.
no. Yeah, and you better have full mags and you better be loaded to the gills if you're running forward too. So, it makes no sense. And like that's why strongman and a lot of like those movements have such a huge carryover. And obviously we're kind of implemented esque into like the ACFT and still like the AFT like now moving forward. So that's awesome to see it. But like going back to like again, like your training as it kind of progressed through your Army career, like when did like you really start to like get the itch and the bug for it and not just like the training aspect of it, but it's like, hey, I want to actually compete. I want to kind of get on the platform and go out to these competitions and raise the level a bit. And then like as you were kind of doing that, how were you able to kind of balance those two careers, kind of
Yeah.
being now a professional strongman and competing nationally and internationally, as well as still being in the Army?
So I had a very unique route when it comes to that. I started in strongman as infantry platoon sergeant. I competed in a couple local shows. I podiumed and it was pretty immediate. I don't think I missed podium on a show until like the last show of my career, ironically, like as a 105 at least. Uh, um, and so at first it was rough. It was a lot because we still had to run and ruck and all that stuff. But then I came down on recruiting orders about a year into my strongman training, and I was pissed. I was pissed. I didn't want to be a recruiter. Like I'm pretty sure any infantry staff sergeant, up for the E7 list isn't trying to go be a recruiter. You know what I mean? And I fought it, and the only way I can get out was to lie about my mental health, and it just didn't feel right. So I bit the bullet. I went to recruiting school and all that, and then I found, oh wait, I have all this time now because I'm not in the infantry, and I don't have to run ever or basically do any physical fitness except for a PT test once a year, and it was just unlocked a whole new kind of mindset. I knew that's where I was like, this is my opportunity. I saw it for what it was, or I made it what I wanted it to be, which was an opportunity to excel at something else. And I used that in my recruiting. Once I started getting into much better shape, putting on size and leaning out, training like I was training, it was easier to recruit because no one wants to say it, but the better you look in uniform, the more people want to talk to you. And I get it. Not everyone's the same and all that stuff, but that's my personal experience is it's easier to talk to people about the Army when you look the part, especially during the Marvel the Infinity War saga when Captain America was huge. It's that patriotic. Oh, look, that dude's jacked, that kind of thing. And then I started winning shows as a recruiter, and they started using that in recruiting. Hey, we have a world champ, or we have a second place America's Strongest Man recruiter, this and that, and it got me more speaking engagements, got me more comfortable talking, and so the careers really helped each other. It got me on the Titan games, which the Army failed miserably at with leveraging. Just epic, epic, epic failure. They made me take personal leave to go on that. I'll put it that way. But that's recruiting for you. That's USAREC.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
rough. But it's obviously like it's one piece in the cog too. Like it's
yeah,
hard to see like that stuff and for what it is and understanding like there are some leveraging that you can do with people that are still in active duty or in service. And there I think the army does a good job in some ways and drops the ball in some other ways too. And like you're always going to find those, but it's awesome to see that you were able to kind of take advantage of that and see it for what it is. Like, especially, I know a lot of people are not keen on those recruiting
yeah.
orders, but at the end of the day, too, like who better to put in front of new potential recruits or people that are on the fence about wanting to join than someone that like embodies a lot of the core principles of like what makes up a good soldier. And like you said, like you fit the uniform, you fill it out the right way too. Like look good, play good, feel good.
Yeah,
It's
it's it is what it
sign on
is.
this line.
It's an uncomfortable truth in humanity, and I get it, but it is what it is. Yeah. So that was kind of like the right. I took off in the sport that during that era. And then as my recruiting time was coming to an end, I had a decision to make. It was go back to the line. And this was right before I won my World's Strongest Man title, my first one. Like I was like getting ready, gearing up, like getting confidence, like I'm gonna win it this year. And I was like, oh shit, do I go back to the line or do I stay as a recruiter permanently and live my best life? And that was the first time I made a selfish Army decision. I decided to convert to recruiter. So I converted. And then once that happened, the Army Warrior Fitness team started, which was a great concept, good concept. But anyway, so that opened up and I got assigned to that after winning the world title. And that allowed me another couple of years to basically just lift weights for the Army with no other responsibilities. Um, and I kept winning. I won another title. I got to compete in the Arnold Spain, the Arnold South Africa. I got to I got to try to shoot my shot at the heavyweight, open heavyweight, because as a 105, especially in that era, there. I mean, it's a trophy and a good job. Pat on the butt.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the middleweight guys end up getting kind of like the raw end of the deal, but like I mean, I see it. It's getting closer to the cusp, but like don't
Yeah.
worry, like the U 90 kilo guys get even more of a shaft.
Yeah,
Like
it goes, shit flows downhill, right?
yeah. It's you put some of those guys next to Thor or any or Brian Shaw and you're coming up to like maybe their nipple. So I
It's hard to beat that. Again, we talked about, with the recruiting aspect, with the strongman aspect, it's the same. It's hard to beat the impressiveness of being 6'6".
yeah. And it's unfortunate too because like I always joke with people like I'd love to it. I know you see probably the tweet or like the article about it like in the video every single year the Olympics come by. It's like how great would it be to have like a average person run next to Usain Bolt just
Yeah.
so people can understand how impressive it is. Like I always complain about strongman and especially like competing in Highland games, there's only two weight classes like that when I go out, it's either you're in the pros and you're in the open class or some places have like under 200 for the lightweights. And we'd always joke was like, listen, do you see how impressive like we're throwing or like how like lighter weight strongmen are competing? It's realistic. Like the
Yeah.
average person weighs that. It's one thing to see someone that's 420 pounds like throw a keg like over a three-story building, but then also put that in perspective. No one's like that. So why don't we actually have someone next to them that can actually showcase that? So then, one, you can see it's impressive that someone that size can do it. And then you get to see a freak do it and you can kind of correlate in your mind. And I mean, that's later down the road. We'll see where competitions and stuff and everything go. But that's
Yeah.
awesome to kind of see like how you were able to kind of tailor your Army career towards the end and do that. And it's
Yeah. Very lucky and blessed. Not a lot of soldiers get that opportunity. And of course, I made my own opportunity. I'll say that 100 times. I've always been a go-getter. I've always taken the chances, right? And they don't always pan out. You fail more times than you win, oftentimes. But when you win, usually it's a pretty good, unique experience.
No, but that's great. That's like you were able to still kind of do your job, get the most out of like a professional career as well as like a professional strongman career. So it's awesome to kind of see how that tailored through. And yeah, the Army Warrior Fitness team and like that program, it hopefully has a little bit more legs and they kind of leverage it in a good way. It's kind of the ebbs
Again,
and
it falls under
flows.
USAREC, which that was the big mistake they made. And I have good things to say about a lot of recruiters, but just being part of the organization, it's tough. It's like trying to ice skate uphill.
Not as great, but I mean, from that point too, like you already started like getting more and more involved in like obviously athletics, and that was always a part of it. Like PT, physical training is always going to be a part of any soldier, any military like individuals like lifestyle as well as like just career path,
Yeah.
you knew that kind of that was important to you. Like what was like your shift leading out of like getting out of the army and like getting your DD-2 114? Like how was like that process? Like did you know what you were going to do? Because now going into like school,
Yeah.
like after the army to try to be an athletic trainer, like that is another big step to kind of take. Were you prepared for that? Was that the goal, or what was kind of your
That's
thought process?
It's actually a pretty interesting story. I always thought I was going to end up being just a strength coach, a CSCS strength coach at a college, until I looked at the path to get there, and I was like, I'm not going to freaking assist somebody for 15 grand a year. That's literally what stopped me from initially. I was like, that was early on, like when I was kind of around the 12, 13 year mark in the army, and I started thinking about the future a little bit. And I retired in 2022. It was a medical retirement. My knee that I referenced earlier, it never, I mean, anybody that, you start shaving meniscus off and you keep doing strongman and it's just is what it is. Total lateral collapse. I mean, I wasn't even bone on bone. I was one bone, like, so knee replacement was that's what I needed. I needed a knee replacement and I was medically retired for it. Turns out to be a blessing in hindsight because I got out a little earlier than I wanted. I got to start my new career, right? I applied to be a manager at a dental office, a KFC, just because I was in a lot of soldiers retire, you don't know what you're capable of because you've never done anything else. And I'd done strongman, but strongman is not a career. It is not a way to pay the bills, right? And I'd done some strength coaching. When I was a recruiter, I strength coached at a local high school in Florida, Newsom High School. One, as a way to just get into school, and two, I got to be around what I loved, which was athletes. And it kept circling back to that. Like I love being around athletes. I love that environment. Um, and in the fall, right before my knee replacement, I was looking at becoming a gym teacher. I applied to Middle Tennessee State University, and I'll never forget this conversation with my wife. I didn't think I was smart enough to be an athletic trainer. Flat out, it was a master's degree. It's a licensed medical professional. It intimidated me as an infantryman who spent his career, slinging rounds down range and lifting weights. I was intimidated. Um, and then my wife, God bless her, she had a come to Jesus talk with me and was like, well, you'll never know if you don't try, dude. So you're going to give up on yourself? And she kind of hit me in my pride. Like, all right, you're this big prideful guy, retired army, but you're afraid to try something new. I was like, no, you got me there. And I applied and I had the call with it was back home because I decided to move home. The family starts getting a little older. You want to be there to take care of parents and stuff like that. It was just a good environment for us. And there was a college program in my hometown that had athletic training. And so, kind of like when two things line up, usually it's not a coincidence. And I got into the program, met them, and they gave me some more confidence. And I jumped into it, man. I said, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself here again. And I did, and it turns out it was rough. It was not easy. Anybody listen to this, you go back to school when you're 35 years old, 36 years old. After, my only degrees before that were online, which I've had both now, and I can tell you it's a little different when you're in person.
Yeah, that changing the career path or like getting out, whether by your own accord, like unplanned or planned, like at that age, like after that's all you've done for basically like your adult life, it's a difficult decision and it's difficult to kind of wrap your head around too, like whether or not you're going to be successful or whether or not you're making the right decision because
Yeah.
a lot of the times you're either putting stuff on hold or financially you're taking a hit or you got to move home and things like that. Like I did the same thing, like, because I was getting close to that age limit and I joined the Army Reserves. And it's like, I have to go to basic training at 32 years old. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is not fun at all. Um, but, and I had to put like coaching on hold for a little bit as well to like, and I was like, oh, I think about it sometimes just like sitting there in my rack like at night, like, what am I doing? And
I put a good amount of people in the army that were of that age range and either going active duty or reserves, and I never had nothing but the utmost respect for them for that reason. It's just because I would always put myself in their shoes. And at that time, I was only 28, 29, and I still couldn't even imagine just shifting, completely taking a chance like that. Man, give yourself a pat on the back for that one.
well, I appreciate it, but I mean, it's the same for you because like you just did it, you just did the opposite of me, like going back to school like after 16 years. And like obviously, like you said, like online degrees and things, that stuff aside, but like the athletic training program has advanced in the last like couple years, like even since like I was in like college for a long time where it becomes like an entry level master's program. So like it's no joke and you're committing for a longer period of time because it is now deemed like even closer towards a medical profession than anything else in like
Oh,
the
yeah. Well,
coaching
I'm licensed.
theory.
I'm licensed on medical and PA. It's a licensed medical profession.
Exactly. So like that's a big step. That's huge to be able to like kind of shift careers and obviously there's a lot of things you could probably take from your military career, but like before we kind of touch on like obviously like some of the things that maybe translate over, like when did you really kind of know like, hey, I made the right decision. Like this is kind of the career path that I want to be in now. Like, was it during school? Was it after school, after graduation? Like, when did that kind of like click for you?
Again, this was like a twofold thing. It started after my first semester because my first semester, man, talk about stress. I hadn't been that stressed in a very long time. You open the very first semester, I had to take a physician assistant anatomy cadaver lab. And again, I'd never even taken an A&P course in person. And the last one I took was 2011, and this was 2023. It I had a lot of catch up to do in a very short amount of time. But I did it. Like I remember I got the almost the lowest score you can get and still pass because they required 80% or higher too, which was another bonus. Um, and I got like an 81, and I just sat there and I never felt more accomplished in my life. It's like I got 120% on that course, just like I was like, I did it. I can't believe I did it. And then I started with you do the clinicals rotations as you go. So you're going to school during the day, and then you have 5, 6 hours of clinical rotations at night, the whole program. So you're getting that clinical education as you're getting the classroom didactic education. And it all started meshing for me. And then I chopped my toe off. And it's freak accident with a lawnmower. But guys, yeah, wear steel toe boots and be aware of any obstacles on your property at all times. Don't even, not even for a second, think you know where you're at. That's my advice for that one. And I was rehabbing myself from a toe amputation, trying to make sense of things, and I felt okay because I had the knowledge base. I felt confident I could get back. And I did get back very quick. I didn't miss anything. I didn't miss any. I made up my hours that I missed during the time I was bedridden. I was doing well in school, and it was just like, this is for me. Like it's all coming so easily to me now. And that was it right there.
Yeah, I think once it kind of clicks and like you find you build some confidence and you find like that confidence in yourself that especially like something tangible or like quantifiable like that where you get the grade back and you put in the hard work and like you get to see kind of the sacrifice that you've made and see like that there is some success and like you are capable of doing
Yeah.
something that was maybe outside of your realm or maybe outside of what you thought and deemed possible. Like that's it. Like at the end of the day, like you feel like you can do anything and you really solidified like yourself in that career like moving forward. And I'm sure that kind of puts you over the edge to like really like, hey, I'm gonna put my head down and really pursue this at this moment. It's a hard lesson though to like go into like right from that and it's like, oh, well, I guess I can apply all the things that I'm learning right now on myself. But I mean, with that kind of in mind, maybe that doesn't have to be that injury aside, but like maybe other strongman injuries and stuff like that. Like, how do you feel like from just an athletic career or like a freak accident and something like that, or just experience like being a platoon sergeant, like you're more equipped to deal with those
Yes.
injuries and like those
Yes.
maybe difficult situations now being an athletic trainer because you've gone through them so you can kind of like help individuals either overcome those obstacles or circumvent those obstacles now?
Yeah, I mean that's, uniquely with me amongst my peers right now is that fact that I've, but inherent by my life I've led, I have a lot more tools in the tool shed. Whether you're talking psychological, whether you're talking competitive, whether you're talking about recovery, whether you're talking about trying to reach that top level, I've literally done there and been there and done it all myself. And just that is invaluable to be able to have when you're dealing with people that have not had those experiences. From there, it's just you got to learn how to message it and how to draw those out of other people that aren't you. And once you find that, it's you truly feel unstoppable.
Yeah, how are you able to kind of like draw on that stuff? It's one thing I always talk with athletic trainers because strength coaches like obviously you're a strength coach too, and like you've coached and you've helped a lot of people like throughout your career, high school level, like strongman level, obviously like in the military as well, just being a mentor and a leader in your own right. But the tone and the message is a little bit different. Like I think more so because as an athletic, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, like if you've seen it, as an athletic trainer, you're seeing individuals a lot more times at their worst
Oh,
because they're
yeah.
coming off of surgery or they're like maybe thinking about giving up their sport or maybe like they are getting pushed out of their sport. Like how do you feel like you're able to kind of, I
Well,
guess, lead that conversation in a way?
it's what I go back to. It's as a leader, I learned this very early. I had great leaders in my army career. I again, especially the young infantrymen, my leaders were fantastic. I was very difficult as a person. I've always been very sure of myself. I've always been very capable. So when you add those two things to a young man, you get a difficult man to deal with, right? I learned from them very quickly that you can't treat everyone the same as much as you would like to. You have to be adaptable, not only to the situation, but to the person you're with. And as a recruiter, that lesson I learned even more when you're talking to so many different civilian populations. I interact. I put people in the army from so many backgrounds. So I mean, you name it, I've dealt with them and talk with them and help them find a career in the army. And it's the same thing with athletic training. These kids, these athletes, these grown men, sometimes 40-year-olds, there's stuff they've never dealt with. And once you understand that, and you have to feel them out. You have to understand how they respond, and without making them fit your mold, you have to fit their mold. That's how you draw the most out of people is by fitting their mold, or however you want to phrase that. But that's the best way to do it. And some people they need the tough love. Some people need to be coddled. There's no one right way. The only right way is getting them back to where they want to be or to where they want to go. That's the only right way. So however you need to get there is how you get there. That's kind of how I approach things.
Yeah, I love that. It's you do have to meet them where they're at and you have to like having more experience and having more tools and being able to kind of relate to them and having a feel for what's going on is way more important than anything else. Like when it comes to that stuff too, like I don't know how I feel about it and I've always like kind of toyed with it back and forth like inherently with a lot of the athletes I've worked with, I get to the frustration point that I shouldn't have to motivate you. Like your job as a tactical athlete, as an operator, as someone in special operations, like your job is inherently dangerous. Your job is inherently physical and demanding, and physical training should prepare you for that or at least aid in that same way. Same with the Division 1 athlete, like performance training, strength conditioning, all the stuff in practice that is going to aid you to be a better athlete in turn better at your specific sport. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So if you don't have that intrinsic motivation, like why the fuck do I have to provide it for you?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
that's
it's different as an athletic trainer when you're trying to like seek that stuff out. Like where do you kind of draw the line with like hey, these are my like returning to injury, like return to play athlete, with when in terms of like goals versus motivation versus like discipline and accountability, like how do you kind of draw those lines so that they're kind of coming to those conclusions and doing it themselves rather than you're just being the cheerleader and you want it more than them.
It's a lot of open-ended questions. I avoid yes or no. The yes or no is for me. Like I'm the one that can assess their injury. I'm the one that can do all that. Yes, it's pretty, yes or no. But to them, it's, well, how does it feel? How does it feel when you do this? What are you feeling? Why do you think it's feeling that way? Why did it feel better yesterday? What'd you eat? And it's getting them to say, oh, I didn't eat much yesterday. Oh, I didn't sleep much yesterday. It's not me telling them you need to sleep more. It's saying, why do you feel this way differently? What's going on? Those kinds of things. And I found that, it's time consuming. It's not easy to do. And unfortunately, in a lot of professions that deal with this population, you don't have a lot of time. So it kind of is what it is. But once you can kind of get a feel for people, again, and it's hard to quantify getting a feel for people, right? Like there's some empathy involved, there's some experience involved, all that. Once you can kind of narrow that down, you can kind of start asking the right open-end questions. And then like I use facial and hand, it's not just words. So if they're in the middle of saying like, oh, I don't, I've done, oh, like something like that, like, oh, I already knew. And they're like, oh shit, I can't get none by this guy. That kind of thing. And it unlocks it. They're like, all right, this guy gets it. And then so if I have time, I've been there too. Almost every single thing these athletes have wanted to do, not wanted to do, I've also experienced. I've wanted to quit. I've done things for other people. I've done things just because I'm told to. I've done things because I wanted to. I've done it all, and I try my best to kind of quantify that with them and show them how they can still win. Even if you're doing it for someone else, you can still win doing that, man. If that's what you need to do, that's fine. I don't care if you want to do it. If you're doing it for them, then do it for them.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
you gotta find what kind of like makes them tick and what drives them too, because that could be all the determinant factor whether or not they're going to be successful, they're going to return to play or return from that injury like full health, and whether or not that kind of those character traits and like the things that you're teaching them are actually going to stick for the long term. Because it's a process, like especially like from injuries, anybody that's ever trained, like whatever has happened, like chances are you're going to continue to kind of deal with those things and they're going to be nagging and they're going to come up throughout your career or throughout your life in some different way. Like you never really fully recover from something like a surgery or an amputation or anything like that. Like that stuff is going to be now like kind of your new normal in a way. And you
I
have to
love that
like
phrase,
do
new
that.
normals. Yeah, new normal is something I use all the time because, it's what, I sometimes I use the phrase like, all right, so what happens if you wake up tomorrow and you're evicted from your house? Is it not normal? No, it's a new normal. Now you got to figure it out. What are you going to do? It's, adapt or die. Adapt or die.
Yeah, it's that stuff is lost on a lot of people too. And I understand like there's so many different parts of the injury that like come into it, like the depression, like the anger, like the whole dab to like
Oh, you
cycle
get
of
you get
that.
you get you get that whole thing and then some. And it's not linear. It's more like a squiggly line. Like just because today you feel you've overcome your depression doesn't mean you ain't gonna feel like tomorrow.
Exactly. And it's not as cut as dry as like when you read research or when you're in school and they're kind of like explaining all those things, like that personal side of it and kind of being able to break the tension, having one-on-one conversations and build those relationships with your athletes and clients. Like, I mean, that was forged off of just years in the Army and those interpersonal relationships that you had from like your leadership, like subordinates that you had and kind of mentoring the people and then like growing in the ranks and like climbing the ladder to be able to like now be in a position where the other people are looking up to you. Like how is that? Do you see a difference? Obviously, like I know you're in a very different position than most of your classmates were, and probably now a lot of athletic trainers are with the experience that you're doing. But do you think you're at a bigger advantage having the experience that you had being a first year full-time athletic trainer versus the opposite and someone has 17 years of experience as an athletic trainer, but none of the experiences that you had like from your former Army
Yeah,
career.
I think that it's different. I don't know. I think that it's a different skill set that I bring to it. So I actually shadowed my one of my first clinical guys. He was about a 17, 18 year. He graduated the same time I did and went right into athletic training, right? So he'd been athletic training for about the whole time I'd been away. And his ability to just interact with athletes as things happen, calm in a very calm, collected manner. And his ability to navigate the systems and stuff like that is something I'm going to have a little bit of trouble with at first, right? But when it comes to talking about certain things with kids, there's stuff he still hasn't experienced, right? Where I was able to step in, even as a student, his student, and be like, "Oh, that's all you got? Let me tell you about this." Things like that. So it's different, it's equal but different kind of thing. Like where there's skill sets that people that have done this forever have, that it's going to take me years to build because that's how you build things. And there's skill sets I have that they might not ever have because they might not ever have to face the things I did. But it's all in how you apply and learn from other people too. And as a recruit in school, they tell you just because it wasn't your experience doesn't mean you can't talk about it. And
Yeah.
that's another big thing I learned as a recruiter. Like, okay, I can I can tell stories or I can give examples that maybe aren't mine, but I understand where they came from and how that applies to this current situation.
Yeah, it's a good point too. Like there's a lot you could pull and you can learn from other people too. Like it definitely doesn't beat like actually going through the experience yourself and like that sticking point, but there's still a lot that you can draw from that. And like I understand like your point too, like and I agree, like it's not the same, it's different. There's no one that's better than the other, but I also know like if the two of you end up in the same career path, like, and you continue to kind of advance from there, you can catch up in years as an athletic trainer, but he's never going to have that experience that you had. So
Right.
I'm always, I'm always like keen, like when I would pull on interns or I bring on new coaches, that having a vast and more broad experience and stuff, maybe that's not directly coaching related, allows me to pull a new perspective in because they can always catch up as a coach.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's that's been the frustration of many a retired military member, is having all these experience and ability to do things, but being in a field where it's rigid, like you haven't been doing it for 5 years, so we're not going to hire you.
yeah, the gatekeeping is the hardest part. But like if you learned as much as you say you've learned and you went through a true military training environment, you went through that career, you understand that if you put your head down and you do the work, like the things will come. And
You'll
it's
shine. You will shine. Your experiences will shine through if you do what's needed to be done to get into the field or get into the thing. And that's a tough thing, man. When again, as a platoon sergeant, you're in charge of so much stuff. There was times where I was an acting first sergeant for months. You're in charge, you're the man type of thing, and then all of a sudden, got to raise your hand to ask a question. You know what I mean? Like, it's a
yeah,
transition, but it's about eating your ego, which is hard to do, very hard to do, and just being humble. And every time somebody says something to me about like, oh man, inspiration. I went to Europe for the Ultimate Strongmans recently, and those guys over there, the amount of times people were like, "You helped get me into strongman. You showed me what a 105 could do." It's continually humbling, and every day it's working on understanding that the minute you're not humble, everything falls apart, because it gives you the ability to see and understand better when you can eat your ego and be humble and just be grateful, not only for the things you've done, but for the ability to influence people.
yeah, that's a great way to put it too. Like I think if you're not humble and like you let your ego kind of run wild, you kind of shut the door on progression a lot of
It's great as an
times.
athlete. It's great as a competitor. Terrible as a leader.
That's a good point too. I mean, yeah, you're going from leading so many soldiers to having to be supervised how to fold towels. So it's
Yeah, I took water to football players this year. It was like, all right, here we go. Let's do it, baby.
it's crazy, but as soon as I know a lot of veterans that get out and they're trying to find that new career path, like this advice and like all the things you're saying, like if they can apply that to just a different a different career, a different job, like they can excel so much more and find success. It sucks, but you have to like
Yeah.
kind of swallow your pride a little bit, like be humble and then just start as a novice. Like there's nothing more fun than kind of starting from the bottom and then finding your rhythm and groove and then watching that potential just grow.
Yeah, and again, I say this from I didn't just get out of the army and immediately know how to do all this. I went through a couple of years of rough transition where I was still trying to bully my way through everything, and I had to be humbled. I had to humble myself. I had to learn how to do it because again, as a young infantry guy, you're not humble. You're not. You may know you're not. You think you're the bee's knees, so to speak, right? And then as
No.
a world champion strongman, throw that on, it's tough to not have an ego going through that, and it sometimes that's got to be burst a little bit before you can learn how to deal with it.
Listen, yeah, that's at that stage of your life and for what job you're doing, if you don't think your piss is hot, you're in the wrong profession.
Right.
You better
But you
be
need that. Yes.
cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For a lot. Yeah. And it's again, it's not. I look back and they're like, oh, you had a huge ego. Like, yeah, I needed it. That's how I accomplished the things I did. That's how I was able to excel in this specific field and things I was doing. Now I'm in a totally different opposite path, and those things do not serve me as well. So those things are not needed.
right. And it's not to say that they're never used, but you understand that like it's a dial. And at that point in
Yes.
time for what your career is or maybe that conversation or where you're at that moment, it's just dialed back to a different number. It doesn't need to be up like it is like when you're on the line or you're in a training exercise or like rounds are going down range and like,
Right.
hey, it's at 11 and I'm cranking on the dial. Like I can ease this back, but I understand too that I can also tap into this if I really need to.
Yep. It's that calm, cool confidence that people see that you experience. You come across people and you're like, he doesn't seem shaken often. It's because I have that confidence in myself, even if I'm not running around half naked calling myself La Flama Blanca anymore.
Hey, there's always a time for it. You gotta unleash it every once in a while when you need to. But hey, so let's touch on this too a little bit too. Like within that time, like transitioning out or like on the verge of thinking about getting out and understanding like where your career was kind of shifting to and wanting to be in athletics a little bit more. Like you co-founded like Strengthlete Collective. Like kind of touch on that. Like what is it?
Oh,
Like
baby.
what's the goal behind it? And like where are you guys currently now with the project and the program?
Yeah, that has evolved as much as I have in the past 5 years, to be honest. It started it was like during the it start when the buildup of online coaching was happening, especially in the strongman world. And I, I've always had empathy, right? I joined the army. This is going to sound stupid now in hindsight, but I joined the army to stop people from doing evil shit in the world. Like 9/11, Saddam Hussein, I I saw what that's happening, and I was like, I can't sit here enjoying my cup of coffee in the morning when that shit's happening. I'm gonna go help stop it. So I've always kind of been that way. And I saw, people charging $200 a month for coaching. And then I saw there's some of the coaching and all that. I was like, this is bull crap. Why are they? So what I did was I got together with all my network that I built with Strength Sports and said, hey, we can do online template programming that's at least 75% as good as online coaching for one quarter of the price, one fifth of the price. So me and my buddy TJ, who's my partner, he's retired from the army. I met him within a year. He was retired when I was on the fitness team. He was a marketing guy, genius. He has a PhD in analytics. Yeah, but I got him jacked, by the way. He's free. He just pulled 655.
Oof.
Um, but he was like, "Hey man, you got this personality, and let's get this together and start this business." So we started it with a collection of templates, like deadlift, stone lifting, just kind of that thing. And it did pretty well. It helped me fund the Clash on the Coast series. It helped, which was given back to the 105. But that was it. And then when I retired and had the knee replacement and started school, it all just kind of paused for a little bit. We were just kind of treading water, not with any direction. And then I started understanding that I have a unique perspective on not only life, but strength training, CSCS, but now I understand this medical side of, and not just medical like anatomy and physiology. I'm talking about application of rehab, application of all this stuff. Wait a minute, I can help people at a way bigger level. So we started testing some programs on TJ. He had a shoulder reconstruction. He just benched 365 from that. A few other people, we were testing kind of my new theories. And I hesitate to call it my theories. It's everyone else's theories that I've just kind of adapted into my own kind of flow, mixed in with my medical background, all that stuff. And we're relaunching Strengthlete as a pathway based thing. And what that is we want to reach everybody. Because again, with the health crisis that's been building for years, the one thing that stands true is nobody's going to help you. The medical system isn't going to help you. The online coach isn't going to help you. You have to help yourself. You have to understand why these things you're doing are harmful to your body. So with that as the basis, we develop pathways for youth athletes, YMCA goers. We got pilots on running programs that are in the air 4 days a week. We're teaching people through prompted templates and nutrition guidance. We do freaking coefficients for each program, so the nutrition is adjusted based on the active program they're doing. Um, and it's just kind of guide them how to be healthy, how to be fit, how to get strong based on what their needs are. So if you're an athlete that wants to excel, you don't have to do the basic rehab stuff. It's built in there. These programs are built in with longevity in mind while also not chaining you to doing 30 minutes of warm-ups and rehab and then an hour, 2 hours of training. You know what I mean? Like it's all built in there. Joint health, tendon health, bone health, all this stuff. Um, and I think it's going to, selfishly, I think it's going to really help a lot of people, once they get into it and understand what it can do for them. And it's guided. It's all in 4 week blocks, so it's easily digestible for everyone. And then once they complete that phase, they move on to the next phase, so on and so forth. And when they update their goals, it recommends them to the certain path. And we're continuously building. And yeah, that's kind of what it evolved into from a bunch of my friends with their templates.
No, that's awesome to hear kind of a little bit of the evolution and like what's coming down like the pipeline with everything too. Like to it's one thing to start something, and it's one thing like you can see it like, hey, you like you said, you're treading water and like it could easily have fizzled out, or it could have easily just been sustained as what it is. But
Yep.
for you to still be passionate about it, understand that like there's still a need, you just have to kind of redirect it and like kind of the path that you're going with the program is like phased in a way that fits and is tailored towards individuals' goals. Like I mean, there's always going to be a need for this. There's always going to be a need for quality coaches, quality programming. And like you said, now you legitimize it yourself even more. You legitimize like Strengthlete Collective as well, even more too, just with your knowledge and baseline and like your prowess like as a professional too.
Yeah, and it's, and again, like we never lose sight of the reason is because everything I don't I especially as I've been educated, I'm aware that education is a key block to a lot of people bettering themselves, and it's expensive. And this is my way of trying to educate and try to provide resources and try to help people understand their bodies in a way that nobody else really can except a one-on-one, maybe one-on-one personal coach, depending who you get. Right. And it's why not only do this, but why are you doing this? How is it going to help you? Why, why should you have to pay $125 for this when for $35 you can get so much more out of it? And again, we're keeping it cheap because I don't believe in ripping people off for something I don't even think should be charged for. Um, it's one of those things where we'll see how people respond to it. We'll see how people kind of take to it, because it is a level of ownership too. You have to be the one to do it. Like I'm not doing it for you. I'm not going to be calling you every day like, hey, are you doing your workouts like a coach would? That kind of thing. But it's again providing the means and at an accessible point where anybody. I live in Erie, Pennsylvania. It has one of the poor zip codes in the nation. I went to high school here with a lot of kids that their parents were maybe bringing home $10,000 a year, and I've seen a lot of potential not hit because of that, because of monetary and inability to continue growing. And if I can help one kid one person that otherwise would have fizzled out in life, then it's worth it to me building this app.
No, that's great. I like that side of it too, because like it's the same thing we kind of talked about, like that motivation. Like you want individuals to realize their potential, but at the end of the day, like if you want it to be sustainable, you want longevity, you actually want to be intrinsically motivated and driven, like you have to take ownership of it yourself. You're providing like the knowledge and experience that you got from like obviously like the money and like the time invested that it takes to go to those schools and learn those things, easily put it in an easily digestible form that follows the programming that fits their goals, and you educate them on the why. It's like it's what coaches are trying to do all the time with their athletes in person and doing it with a team atmosphere with either the goal of being better at your sport and hopefully carrying that past college or high school. You're just doing it for people that maybe have never played sports or are done playing sports
Yeah.
and they want to be involved in strongman or just strength training in general, and they just don't have access to these coaches that are hired specifically to do these jobs. Like
Yeah.
you're providing that service. So that's awesome to kind of see how the directive is. And I wish you guys a lot of luck and hopefully that this kind of launches and does really well moving forward.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Hey, so let's shift gears a little bit too. Like with all the talk about training and coaching and everything like that, like and coming off your strongman career, like what has that kind of shifted into now? Like how are you still training? Like how are you still kind of finding ways to stay active? Like you can't be world's strongest man forever. So
Right. Right.
you gotta shift gears. Like where's your mindset at when it comes to training, and how have you kind of like been able to kind of take a step back and then readjust and realign your goals for your own training?
Again, it's being humbled as I have with a total knee replacement, followed by closely followed by a toe amputation. I had to just I was broken down. I didn't break myself down. I was leveled out, flat, bombed out, and depleted, right? And I had to change my goals. Was my new norm. I can't go in there and press 400 pounds and deadlift 800 pounds all the time anymore. One, I don't have the time because when I was doing that stuff, I was training 3 hours a day, eating, sleeping, napping, all that stuff, and I don't have that anymore. So my new goal is to embody what I preach, and that's as simple as that. And right now it really hasn't taken a form. If I wanted to get into bodybuilding coaching, I'd probably lean up and like that. But I want to show people not only through my what I do as a coach, as an athletic trainer, but looking at me that it's okay. You'll be okay. You just got to keep moving. You got to move with intent. And if you move with intent, you'll be okay. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with it.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that it's always preached. I mean, infantrymen's, you're always going forward. Like if you're ever going backwards, yeah, you're in
Yeah.
the wrong profession again, too. So that's awesome. And kind of hear how it shifts. And I mean, you want individuals like yourself, like in that position, in that role, like athletic trainers. Like I hope there's more athletic trainers with that mindset that are performance kind of rehab based as well, and
Yeah.
not just like mother hen kind of come close, like I'll protect you from this big scary world. Like, no, I want the trainers to be, hey, I want to get you back out there, and I want you to be at 110%. I want you to be better than you were before you actually got injured.
That
And
is something different than that I bring than a lot of athletic trainers because what I've learned with the athletic training community, a lot of empaths, a lot of empathy. These people love helping people. In the medical profession, that's what it is. And that's fantastic. But as you said, you can't mother hen everybody. There has to be intent. You can mother hen them with intent, right? And again, that's the key. I say with my athletes I tell them all the time, if you meet the intent of my programming, I don't care if you change a couple things up, but here's my intent. Here's what I want you to feel and accomplish today. So if you have to adjust a couple things and you think you met the intent, we're good to go. That's kind of where I'm at with that, and that's that's again combining that strength conditioning background to the athletic training that a lot of athletic trainers don't have.
Yeah, I know that's great. It kind of poses another question. I always ask this when I have individuals that are in like sports medicine, athletic training background, because like you said, like how difficult it was being a medical professional. You can go out as an athletic trainer and get your CSCS. Like you already have an exercise science kines background. Like you meet all the qualifications in order to like actually sit for the test and you can pay and take the exam. As strength coaches, can't really take that same sort of test or like same sort
Yeah.
of like
I got
knowledge
I got
base as an athletic trainer can.
I got bad news, strength coaches. I'm sorry. That shit was hard as hell. That certification exam and all the knowledge you have to have, the medical knowledge, it ain't the same.
So with that in mind, like what would you say now that you're on both sides of the profession, like you still like heavily involved in strength conditioning and coaching, but like you have the knowledge base and the experience as an athletic trainer. What would you say as advice to a strength coach that needs to kind of go out or should kind of go out and learn a little bit more about the athletic training? Is there like
Yeah,
shadowing? Is it
I think it's
something?
real simple. You don't even need to do that. I think as a strength coach, to understand where I'm coming from an athletic trainer, break down why are you programming the movement? What goals are you trying to make? And how are you going to get adaptation in a way that is consistent with how the body actually adapts? Not what you want it to do or think it should do, but break it down. Think about each movement, start doing that, and eventually you don't have to break it down. Eventually it just starts coming to you. Okay, oh my, they're having knee problem, pain at the bottom of the squat. Let's do some isometric holds. Let's have them lower each week. As an athletic trainer, that's what I would do to rehab somebody. I would try to get them in that pain-free movement and try to get it more and more range of motion every time we do it to increase the tendon's capacity and their pain tolerance. Because pain tolerance is a real thing when you have athletes too. Sometimes it's not about remodeling tissue or helping them. It's about neurologically getting them to tolerate that pain better so they can perform.
Yeah, I love that. It's like I talk about it with like a lot of the athletic trainers that I worked one-on-one and like specifically with like a rehab and they do a really good job of it. Is like that continuum of care and that continuum of what the movement looks like or how we can progress and regress this. And if you're working really well as like a high performance model or like just all the different members of like the rehab and the performance team, like there's always like a handoff. And if you can make
Yeah.
that handoff as seamless as possible and still between those transition periods, there's a good overlap,
Yep.
then you already, as a strength coach, know a little bit about what the athletic trainer is doing or know what the physical therapist's goals and intentions are so that when you get that athlete, they're doing this, or even the surgical procedure, like what is actually happening within that time period and what are they apt to see in the first 6 weeks, the next 6 weeks, the next 6 weeks, so that when you get them, you can start to progress them in a manner that actually fits what their surgery is or what their rehab looks like and what their goals are moving forward. So you could take them and eventually pass them off to the sport coach as
Yep.
100% ready to perform.
Yep, and then another thing that I do because again, as an athlete, I went and got work done all the time by PTs and chiros, and they'd be like do terminal knee extensions. I'm like, all right, and I'm doing their easy as hell because I could squat 700 pounds. They didn't tell me the intent. They didn't tell me why. They didn't tell me about why I should do it, why it's going to help me. If you watch this, that's the biggest takeaway as a strength coach, AT, sports med, whatever you're doing. If you help people understand why, if you get them to buy into the intent, they will succeed.
Yeah, that why and understanding the intent is huge. And if you don't ever get your head out of the book or ever get out of the office, like you're never going to really understand what that intent is because you don't write about feelings, you don't unwrite, you write about that stuff in a scientific paper.
Yep. Yep. Again, because that was the breakdown there. I was a world champion strongman. Of course, if these exercises are super easy and I'm not feeling that they're helping me, I'm not going to keep doing them. I don't have the time for that. But if I understood, oh wait, here's how it's going to help me down the chain and down the road, blah blah blah, I'm more likely to do it.
Exactly. That's awesome. Well, that's great advice for anybody that's on either side of the fence within their career or is kind of trying to learn a little bit more about like their kind of opposite career as well. So awesome. Hey, well, any good training session, we got to end the show with a finisher. So I got 4 quarters, 4 questions.
All
and
right.
then we'll fire away with overtime at the end. But you can go rapid fire, or if you've got anything you want to add on it, feel free. But you ready?
Let's go.
All right, first one I got for you. Biggest influence in either the athletic training, strength conditioning, coaching profession as a whole, and as well as f biggest influence in strongman.
Okay, so I gotta go. Mark Taysom again. He probably accompanies both of them. I mean, the guy. I'm still in contact with him through the years. He's been a mentor to me. He's seen potential in myself that I didn't see throughout, not just the strongman and strength conditioning, but athletic training. Genius guy who put it all into application himself. Uh, kind of shaped the man I am today. He probably doesn't approve of the way I got here sometimes, but he shaped it.
Hey, then you don't have to, you can close your eyes for a couple of things in the middle ground. That's fine. Hey, so when you're not coaching, you're not training, you're not in the training room, you're not getting ready for anything like that. What are some of like your hobbies that recharge you outside of the profession?
I am an avid Lord of the Rings nerd. I just got a full Balrog tattoo on my lower leg to cover up my ex-wife's name. Um, that's one of the things that Mark probably wouldn't be proud of was getting an ex-wife's name on me. But I love reading. My wife, she's a book nerd too, but I've always been a lifelong learner and reader. I love history. I love watching PBS documentaries. I love all that stuff. That's probably my number one hobby. Bowler, decent bowler too.
All right, there you go. Hey, so what do you think you might be? I know you've had multiple professions at this point in time, but if maybe there was a different career path, if you were looking at it now, or maybe coming out of the army, or maybe before you got in the army, what do you think you might be doing if things were different and your career was different?
I would have defeated John Cena at SummerSlam 2012.
That day specifically, too.
Yeah. No, that I definitely would have been a wrestler if I would have followed my like dream, like
All
kid,
right.
childhood dream type thing. Yeah, I would have bet on myself and wouldn't try to be a wrestler.
And I'm guessing you already know exactly what your name was going to be, too.
I had one when I was a kid, but it didn't age well. It's A Train, a little lame. Uh, so I probably would have had to workshop that. See, it all depends how the crowd reacts.
I thought it would have been your strongman name, too, though.
Flama Blanca. See, that came down the road after. Yeah, that was that would have worked. You're right. That probably would have worked.
I mean, that could have been your catchphrase too. You could have found a way to like work that in somehow as well.
Don't get burned by the Flama Blanca. Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, so if you're setting up an ideal training day for yourself, and I know it might be different now, but like you could put it back in the heyday when you're getting ready for World's Strongest Man. But what music is playing through the speakers, and what is the best post-training meal look like?
Two artists, whenever I competed, they were in my headphones. Like there's video when you saw me pacing behind a deadlift before my name was called, it was either Taylor Swift or Cardi B in those headphones. I don't God help me, I don't know why. They got me going. They got me motivated. I was ready to do anything. Um and my post training meal in my heyday, it was a lot of beef and rice. But I prefer chicken wings.
Hey, there you go. Well, last one I got for you overtime. What is what is training and competing and like just that healthy lifestyle truly mean to you? Like what is the reason that like you always would get back on the platform? You always got back in a competition. Like what was that driving factor for you?
Um Man in the Arena. That's that speech by Theodore Roosevelt. That's you know even before I knew that speech, that's when I read it for the first time. I was like, oh, it's me. I love being in the arena. I love being the man. I love being the one taking the chance. It was always that.
Well, that's awesome. That's cool to kind of like already have that mindset before you even see the quote and understand like, oh man, he wrote it
Yeah.
about me.
Yeah, it's that too many times in my life. I'm like, oh wait, I'm not unique. It's already been done, but yeah, I had no idea.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, Anthony, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. It's been awesome to talk. I know we could talk about anything under the sun and keep this going forever, but we'll have to end it here for now. But for anybody that's got any follow-up questions and stuff for you, wants to kind of follow along, Strengthlete Collective and see the programming and see what you guys got going on, where can they get a hold of you as well as kind of see everything that you have going on?
Yeah, so Anthony, it's Anthony Fuhrman WSM 105 is my Instagram now. I'm recently on TikTok learning how to make videos, so it's kind of fun. Strengthlete Collective is on Instagram, TikTok, all that. Threads, I think, is a thing now. And yeah, if you got questions, drop them. I love talking about this stuff all the time. So if you guys have any questions or need help, that's what I like doing.
Awesome, man. Well, like I said, I appreciate your time. It's been awesome. We'll have to keep in touch and keep this thing going. But I wish you the best, man, and thanks again for coming on today.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me, man.
That's it for this episode of The Strength Game. Thank you again to this week's guest and to our sponsors. Be sure to connect and keep up with our guests at the links in the description below. Remember to subscribe to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider to stay up to date on all future episodes. Also, check us out on YouTube and CoachO'Brien.com, where you can find all the video versions of these episodes, as well as show notes, episode schedule, and much more. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome and appreciated. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to join us next week for another great episode of The Strength Game.